So those of you who have been here before, could you raise your hand just to get a sense? Welcome back. Those of you who are new, welcome to the beginning of an incredible journey. We truly are living during the most extraordinary time ever in human history. And here's the challenge. I want to, over the next 30 minutes, give you a sense of how fast the world is changing, but have you understand that it's accelerating. And what does that mean? So the title of my next book, which I'm writing with Stephen Kotler, is The Future is Faster Than You Think. And there is an acceleration that's actually accelerating the acceleration. Now, in physics, that's called jerk, but that sounds not a very good name. And the reality is that people have no idea how fast the world is truly changing. We have ideas from our limited point of view. If you're the 3D printing scientist or an AI scientist or engineer, but what we don't realize is the convergence of all of these technologies that are transforming business models. Every single company here, every single walk of life, every single way that we earn our living is going to change, not in 30 years or 20 years, this decade. So I'd like to give you a sense of why that is, both to have the excitement about that, but also the agility you're going to need to sort of surf on top of the tsunami versus being crushed by it. So when I talk about acceleration, it's acceleration of the rate of innovation. And what is innovation? Innovation isn't just a better algorithm. Innovation today is the exchange of ideas between individuals. I have an idea, and I share it with my buddy Naveen. He builds in the idea and shares it back with me. And this is conversation, this back and forth. And we can actually see this mathematically as people moved out of the rural areas into the cities, into the coffee shops, and the density of their conversations began to increase. So did the innovation occur. And so I want to share with you what are a series of 7 different forces that are accelerating how fast the world is changing. So the first is this concept of communication abundance, and we all know it. We all think about this as Moore's law, and you've heard me present this before, but those of you who are new, right, here's Gordon Moore, who in 1958 co-founds Intel, not far from here. And he says something in a famous paper written in 1965. He says, listen, at Intel, we've discovered that the number of transistors we can put on a piece of silicon has roughly been doubling every 12 to 18 months, and it's likely to continue. And of course, it's continued for 50 years, and we've called that Moore's law. And this is his first integrated circuit, 2 transistors. Here's the first commercial product, 2,300 transistors, about $1 each. Fast forward 45 years, and this is the Core i9 processor in a lot of your machines. It's got 7 billion transistors, and it's 27 billion times better on a price-performance basis, right? There's no way to understand what that really means, but it's this massive increase in computational power that is driving us. And if you graph it, it looks like this. What we're seeing here over the last 110 years is 5 modalities of computational power, from electromechanical, relay, vacuum tube, transistor, and integrated circuit. And it's only this last 50 years that is Moore's law, right? Ray's concept of the law of accelerating returns is that faster machines or computers give you the next generation of faster capability and the next generation of faster capabilities, and it's been continuing since the beginning of life on this planet. But this last 50 years is Moore's law, and it will continue, and when it does, in 2023, what is that, 5 years from now, the average $1,000 you use to go buy a computer is now calculating at the rate of the human brain, 10 to the 16 cycles per second. 25 years later, now $1,000 buys you the computational power of the entire human race. Now your kid's homework gets very easy. So this computational power is our first accelerant. It's the basis. It's what we think about. It's Moore's law. And the realization is, as computational power gets faster, so do networks and sensors and AI and robotics and 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain. All of these technologies are accelerating in speed and rate and power. Now, again, you can be an expert in any one of these, but it's the convergence of 2, 3, or 4 of these together that's transforming business models. So that's our first basic driver, right? That's what we think about. We think about exponential technologies. But it goes much deeper, much faster. Let's talk about save time, or time abundance. When you think about how you spend your time, in years of old, we would spend our time foraging for forest wood, going to get water, trying to overcome this or overcome that, and the amount of time that we had to truly innovate and solve a problem was minuscule. But as technology begins to liberate us, give us a vacation from survival, the amount of time that we have to innovate is massively increasing. One of the examples that comes from Matt Ridley's book, Rational Optimist, he talks about save time and the cost of light, that in ancient Babylonia, in 1750 BC, to get 1 hour of light from a sesame oil lamp, 1 second of light from a sesame oil lamp took literally 50 hours of human labor. Fast forward now to today, a tallow candle cost 6 hours, to 1790, 6 hours of human labor. And in 1880s, a kerosene lamp took 15 minutes of human labor. Right? So again, the amount of time we're using to get the basics is massively decreasing, increasing the amount of free time we have to innovate. Today, a half a second of work gets you an hour of light. This is happening over and over again across the board. I love this. A 100-watt light bulb, if you burned it for a month, the equivalent amount of money to get that much light in the 1300s was 35,000 British pounds. Right? Today, it's just under 4 British pounds. We're seeing the demonetization, the dematerialization of these technologies. All right, to my friends from Brazil, welcome. Any Brazilians in the audience? So the next force that is driving acceleration of the acceleration is capital abundance. We have more capital available than any time ever in human history. I want to give you some of the numbers to understand how much capital is flowing, because it's extraordinary. Crowdfunding, $34 billion in crowdfunding in 2017 across 375 platforms in the United States, with a projection of $300 billion of crowdfunding in 2025. What does that mean? It means that somebody in a part of the world with a great idea can reach out to the rest of the world and get the capital that she needs to start her company. Never before possible, right? $300 billion of capital. It's going to crush and reinvent how we capitalize startups from around the world. On top of that, we've got venture investing hitting new records. In Europe and Asia, we hit brand new records on venture capital this year. In the United States, we hit a peak in 2017 of $84 billion. Again, we're hitting peak after peak of capital availability for venture investing. ICOs, in 2017, $6.6 billion initial coin offerings. In the first half of 2018 alone, we've surpassed that. And in ICOs per quarter, we're going from 12 per quarter to 100 in Q4 for 2017. Right? Again, the velocity of capital that's flowing is unprecedented. I'll give you one final example. This is Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, who built the Vision Fund and announced his intention to create an $880 billion complete portfolio over the next decade. And why is he doing this? Let me read you his quote. He says, "I totally believe the singularity is coming in the next 30 years. He's a little bit long on that. That's why I'm in a hurry to aggregate the cash to invest." So we're seeing massive investments like never before, not keeping technology at the norm, but actually investing to accelerate it. All right, what's the next forcing function? It's demonetization. Your dollar now goes 10 times or 100 times farther, right? So here's bandwidth costs from 1992 to today. Here's computing performance costs, massively demonetizing. Here's storage costs, again, effectively from $500 to zero. And then check this out. Back in 2000, I remember starting an internet company. I was running a company called Blastoff at Idealab. And our cost for getting this company started was about $5 million for the servers, for the bandwidth, for the software, for everything. Look what happens at the cost of starting an internet company over the next decade. Literally demonetizing rapidly. So the number of startups is exploding. So more money than ever before. That capital goes further than ever before, right? Sequencing a human genome in 2001 was $100 million. Next year it'll be $100. So we have far more experimentation than any time ever in human history. We're also entering a period of communications abundance. So US to India, 1-minute phone call. 1975, $10, right? Today, under a penny, 1,000 times cheaper. We're seeing 5G deploying this year and next year, right? 100 gigabit connection speeds to anyone with a smart device. We're seeing companies with drones and balloons and satellites. And on top of that, we're seeing SpaceX with Starlink with 4,000 satellites, and then another layer of 7,000 satellites. The point is this. In 2017, we had half the world connected, 3.8 billion people. By 2022 to 25, we're going to see 8 billion people connected, not like you and I got connected at 9600 baud, or at least some of you, on AOL, but being connected at a gigabit connection speed, with access to the world's information on Google or Baidu, with access to quantum computing on the cloud, with access to whatever you need, right? So 4 billion minds are coming online. These 4 billion minds are going to accelerate the future. 4 billion entrepreneurs who've been entrepreneurs to survive, who now have access to all the knowledge, all the computational power they want, right? You tell me that this is not going to be a force reinventing and reinventing and reinventing. It's no longer Silicon Valley. It's the world with access to all the power and technology you need. And it's coming online in the next 7 years. Right? What are these people going to invent, create, discover, desire? Tens of trillions of dollars flowing into the global economy that's not being discussed or accounted for. Right? Old age economics are no longer valid. All right, what else is going to accelerate our future? It's increased genius. Now, from 2 levels. One, if you happen to have been a genius in a developing village that didn't have connectivity, you could be the smartest person in the village, and you were stuck there. It was the seed thrown onto the proverbial stone instead of the fertile soil. And your brain and your knowledge was lost. Today, everywhere on the planet, you have the ability to connect and get your ideas known. So it's going to be the unknown genius who plugs in today. But besides that, we're also entering a period of time where we're not just connecting people, we're connecting their neocortex. We're connecting their brains, right? So if you look right now, there is billions of dollars being invested in brain-computer interface, right? From my friend Brian Johnson at Kernel, or Elon at Neuralink, or OpenWater, or Facebook, or Google, or IBM, BrainGate, all of these companies, as well as national, you got to believe, right, that you have in the defense departments of every nation massive investments going in this way. I mean, if I told you, listen, would you rather have a population that's twice as smart as anybody else or anything else? Human intelligence is going to be the dominating driver in competitiveness in the century ahead. And so what does this mean? It means the idea of connecting our neocortex to the cloud, right? And the predictions in the past have been 2045, thereabouts, where I'm going to plug my brain into the cloud. Our dear friend and Chancellor Ray Kurzweil's prediction is 10 years earlier, 2035. So what does it mean when I have a millionfold more intelligence or a millionfold better memory? Right? When I see my friends Eric and Alana stepping towards me, I want to say something witty, and I sort of bring on additional processors so I can, say something smart. If you don't think that the world is going to change dramatically, what is this? The year's 2018, 2035, 17 years from now, right? Within the 20-year horizon. I can't imagine any aspects of our lives, our society, our industries that's going to stay as it is. We talk about the concept of the singularity. What is the singularity? It's the point at which our ability to predict what's going to happen next year is beyond prediction because the rate of change is so fast. That's how our university got its name from Ray's book, The Singularity is Near, which got its name from an analogy in physics of a black hole singularity. But these are the forces that are accelerating the acceleration. And on top of making humans more intelligent, it's the notion that we're going to live longer. And so I know a lot of 65 or 70-year-olds who are at the top of their game. And the last thing they want to do is retire when they've got the most contacts, the most knowledge, the most wisdom. Retire? Are you kidding me? That's the #1 cause of death, I think. So my mission is make 100 years old and you 60. Right? How do we have the aesthetics, the cognition, the mobility at 100 that we had at 60? I've had the chance to start a few companies, invest in a number of other companies. We have one from Elevian who's commercializing GDF11. It's some SU alumni I'm very proud of. At the end of the day, we're going to start to add 10, 20, 30 years on your life. And the beautiful thing about that is that as soon as we do that, that means that you're intersecting another 10, 20, 30 years of biological and technological advancements to add the next 10 or 20 or 30 years on your life. And to do what Aubrey de Grey and Ray Kurzweil talk about called longevity escape velocity. Right? The point at which for every year that you're alive, technology is extending your life for more than a year. Ray's prediction of when we're going to reach longevity escape velocity is 12 years from now. As I like to say, wear your seatbelt. Don't die for something stupid in the interim. We truly are living during the most extraordinary times ever in human history. My challenge for you is to avoid complacency. You're here. Congratulations. It's the first step. There's no way for us to truly fathom how fast the world is changing. That's why we built this institution, to become a resource for you for the rest of your lives, that you come back every year, come back for an executive program, join our global startup program, whatever it might be, but understand that the power that we have as individuals is extraordinary. We have the power of kings and queens. We have the power to solve any problem we want. You have access to more computational power than any time in human history. You do. Each of you do. You could spin up 1,000 processor cores on AWS if you wanted to. You have access to more knowledge, more capital. There is nothing that you don't have access to. Ultimately, it's your personal conviction, what we call your massively transformative purpose, or your moonshot of what you're going to do. So the world is getting faster. The power that you have to change the world is getting greater. We are alive during a period of time that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. For those of you who are the billionaires in the room, as I was saying to some of the alumni this morning, your mission is not to climb the Forbes list. It's to discover in you what is the world's biggest problems that you want to slay, that you want to change, that you want to put an end to because you can. All of us have created tremendous networks of people or wealth. That's why you're here, for one reason or another. And how do you use the talent and the treasures and the technology you have access to solve problems that inspire you, that give you a purpose in life, that wake you up, that scare you a little bit? One of the things that gives me the greatest hope for our lives today is that an entrepreneur is someone who finds a great problem and slays that problem. And the number of entrepreneurs is exploding. And the power those entrepreneurs have to solve problems is greater than ever before. So I do believe that we're heading towards a world of abundance, a world in which you can create abundance for all, where there will be a world where no man, woman, and child goes without. Yes, there'll be a world of haves and super haves, but as long as there's a world where everybody has access to the world's best education, healthcare, knowledge, that's a world that we at Singularity University want to work towards. So, the world is changing fast. As I like to say, don't blink. If you'd like these slides, if you send an email to this email address, my server will send them to you. Please share them with your friends, with your family. I want to thank all of you and congratulate you for joining the Singularity University family. Welcome to the Global Summit. Thank you for those who've come back. Please join us. You know, the next 25, 30 years are going to be the most extraordinary time ever in human history. An honor and a pleasure. Thank you.